Hello, it's Jen again. So today I had in my mind that I wanted to, Today I had in my mind that I wanted to talk about my experiences with beta testing and how it's helped to, I think, make improvements on my project that I wouldn't have able to see myself. It's really vital, of course, to have somebody who will proofread your text and to test your game for bugs. But I'm going to focus more on the type of feedback that changes the experience of the game. So things like testing for game-breaking bugs and for grammatical errors. Those are all kind of a given. You can't play the game if there's just a bunch of errors all over the place. I'm talking about more subtle changes, or maybe unplanned changes would be more the accurate description. So I'm going to start by telling a little story. I occasionally lurk some of the visual novel Reddits, just to kind of see what other people are doing and to kind of feel like I'm part of a community, when in actuality I'm just most of the time developing by myself. But it helps. And I'm more of a lurker than a commenter, so I don't usually have a whole lot to say in these forums. But I decided I really needed some people to test my game outside of my circle of like-minded friends. Most of my friends are people my age who have not really ever played visual novels. And they're pretty impressed by the fact that it's, that it can just function. That, oh, these are lovely drawings, and this is a story, and, that's really cool, and you're my friend, so I'm going to give you well-intentioned pats on the back. There was, however, something that I implemented in the second chapter. Spoiler warning, I'm going to talk about the second chapter a lot. So if you want to go in blind to this game and you don't want to know some of the backstory of how the second chapter ended up being what it is, then stop the video here. That's pretty much all I'm going to be discussing for the rest of the video. So yeah, there was an issue with chapter 2 that I was vaguely aware of going in, that the feedback was very polarized from the very small pool of people who had personal acquaintances of mine who have tried playing the game. Either it was, this is, perfectly fine, I got to read and unlock everything and nobody should have a problem with this, or it was, I died so many times that I gave up entirely. I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing here. That's some pretty polarized results there, and I was really surprised by it because I had already nerfed the mechanic on my own accord from what I had originally intended. Now, I don't want to make myself sound smart, like, oh, this is a really challenging, tough game. This is going to be like the Cuphead of visual novels, because that's not my intention going forward. But I did have in mind that there was going to be a player dilemma, and how I communicated this dilemma was not clear. Some people were on the same wavelength as me and they got it, or they found workarounds, or they just were completely lost. So I have to give a little background of how I set up the second chapter. RenPy does have a module for randomizing numbers. The idea with the second chapter is that you were going into the tunnels of memory, And in these tunnels, the material, the dirt that these tunnels are made of, very fragile, very frail. And I wanted to create this sense of, player dilemma. If you go too far trying to chase these memories, then you might end up finding the whole place collapses on you. So, in order to create this dilemma, I set up this mechanic that every time you would enter a particular room or label, it would add up to like, oh, you visited this place like 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. And each time that you entered this room, you would get a message that the room was becoming more and more unstable, that the dirt is crumbling off the walls and is becoming hazardous to be here. And then after visiting the place 4 times, it would roll a random number between 1 and 3, and if it rolled a 1 or a 2, you were safe. But if it rolled a 3, then the place collapsed on you and you'd die. And that was a game over. And I purposefully made this random number more generous than in the original incarnation. It was going to be a 50-50 chance. Instead, I made it a 66-33% chance in the player's favor. And originally, I was going to make it so you really had to plan out your pathway. Let me go to a different file that actually shows you more of the map. Originally, the pathway was going to be very tight. You weren't going to be able to make any wrong decisions, and you were going to basically get crushed under the weight, or have a 50-50% chance of getting crushed under the weight of this tunnel if you backtracked or if you made the wrong choice. And I think this one is going to be a more complete map. Okay. So you can see the tunnels would branch into 3 different pathways, and then those on this tribe side would branch into 3 other pathways, which would branch into 3 other pathways, which would branch into 3 other pathways. And in my mind, you really only had to go down one of these paths, or a couple of these paths in completion, and you would have what you needed to defeat the level. So in my mind, it wasn't very difficult at all. But there was probably about, 60% of the content that if you wanted to safely complete this chapter, that you would completely just not see. So the memories, character building with your companion, these things would just not be unlocked for you if you went the safest route. I wanted to create this dilemma for the player that, if I want to see all the story unfold, if I want to know all the little secrets, or if I want to unlock all the little quirks with these characters, then I will have to kind of risk getting stuck, or risk the characters dying in order to push my luck. And at first it seemed like the feedback I was getting from the beta testers was, I'm confused. Everywhere I go, stuff happens, but I don't know where I'm supposed to go, because every place brings me to some place where something new happens, but then I get crushed because they're exploring every avenue. And I thought, well, I just need to give the player more direction. I just need to tell them more of what their objective is. Like, I need to make it clear to them that they don't have to go through every part of the tunnels in order to complete the chapter. So I started giving the characters prompts to say things like, you've got enough more clues to specifically what you need to do to accomplish the task. And still people were very unhappy, or I should say they were getting stuck. They were saying, I can't get past chapter 2, I just keep getting crushed. And that's when I realized that as a creator, I need to step back and say, what am I doing here? I want people to play the game. I want them to complete this story. I don't want them to get stuck on a chapter that's not even meant to be hard and just get like repetitively crushed to the point where they're just like, I don't know what I'm doing, or I can't do this anymore, I'm gonna stop playing. That is like the worst possible outcome. So is my dilemma that I wanted to place upon the player a good dilemma? Is that a fair dilemma? Does that add to the story? No. It seems like everything that I was trying to accomplish was distracting from the story, locking off parts of the story, and the only players that were satisfied in getting around this mechanic were players that were essentially just reloading the game until, they could get past those random checks that would potentially kill you. So, after exhausting every single other avenue, I realized that I couldn't continue having the game play the way that I wanted it to. That creating that dilemma for the player was not adding to the narrative. It wasn't. It was blocking off content. Honestly, why would I make like all this extra dialogue and all these other choices if the player is not going to have access to this, or the majority of players who aren't willing to go through and just break the mechanic by infinite reload are going to miss. It's not my goal in this game to force players to keep replaying the same routes just to find little new nuggets of information. So I pretty much nerfed the mechanic into oblivion, where you would have to literally just wander around in repetitive circles for no reason at all to trigger the mechanic to have the room collapse on you. So I guess the lesson or the takeaway that I got from this, and I hope that other creators will think about, is if you're going to beta test your game, listen to the testers. I could have saved myself some work if I hadn't been so stubborn in trying to preserve my vision of what this all-important player dilemma was going to be. Listen to your testers. They are the people who, ultimately you're making your game for people to play. So if it's horribly uncompelling, or if it has something that's detracting from it and stopping people from playing it, then step back, take a good hard look at what you're trying to accomplish. I'm not saying like change your storyline to appease every person who says that they don't like this little detail or that little detail, or they don't like your characters or your story. Those are things that you probably don't want to compromise on. There are going to be some people who this just isn't their jam. That's not their thing, and that's okay. At least for me, I know that my stuff is very niche, so I'm totally fine with people like not liking the characters, not liking the story. But when I have people saying that they like the characters and they like the story, but they just got fed up or stuck on a mechanic, those are the types of really good feedback. Like, oh, thank goodness I had these beta testers to put me in check. When I had maybe like one or two friends who had concerns about the mechanic, but they are very generous people, and they were willing to kind of overlook this glaring flaw. But yeah, having people outside of my group of friends point out this flaw to me and make me kind of reassess, what my priorities are in the game and what things I was willing to compromise on and what things I'm not willing to compromise on. This is an easy compromise. This was something that was easy to change, easy to make it just more fun for the player, a better experience for the player. There's no sense in me creating a mechanic that detracted from the story, that set barriers from the story. in a way that was just completely frustrating or baffling to the player. Like, that's not what I was trying to communicate. So just want to take this opportunity to thank those who beta test my game. Your responses were invaluable to me going forward. And thank you to the visual novel Reddit community for supporting my post and giving me a little bit of visibility so that I was able to find some testers outside of my circle of friends. That was just fantastic. I was really scared going into it. I was really scared making a post about it. I think, like, even my heart was, like, beating when I was posting, because I was just like, oh, you know, I'm not that comfortable with social media, and I'm even more uncomfortable, like, trying to put myself out there and, like, hustle my work. Like, I feel really uncomfortable doing that. So the generous and very welcoming response that I got from the community, it was just a huge encouragement. And so thank you so much to the visual novel Reddit community. I'll put a post and a little thank you down in the description below. So thanks for listening to my beta testing experience. I'd like to expand on this in the next chat I have about the feedback loop and my experiences, mainly coming from webcomics about that. So I'll have some stories to tell about that. I won't have any spoilers in it as far as the project I'm working on currently, but it very much relates to making visual novels, and especially in this digital age of social media, just how I feel about it personally, my just random observations, and I'll see you then. Thanks so much for listening to my ramblings. As always, give yourself permission to enjoy the process. Bye.